Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Satarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur. His Grace Ananda Loka Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Hare Krishna. Yes. Okay, can I be heard okay?
Yeah, sounds great, Maharaj.
Okay. It's a little confusing because I named a disciple recently, not too many days ago. I named a disciple in honor of Ananda Loka Prabhu. So I was just speaking with Ananda Loka Prabhu, but it would be my disciple, not my friend, who unfortunately has passed away. All right. Most of the time, my friendship with Ananda Loka Prabhu stayed very steady. To speak very frankly, he wouldn't, I mean, he didn't share this with so many people. Maybe he did in some cases. I don't know if he shared that with you, Bhagavanara Prabhu, but he had a very, very turbulent and very traumatic, we can say, childhood. His upbringing was far from ideal. And that left a certain, it left him with a certain sensitivity. Sometimes he would express some disturbance to me, you know, a little confidential, but he would share that with me in different situations. Otherwise, he was, as is well known, he was sold out devotee of the Lord. His stamina is absolutely impressive. He would chant like 20 rounds before starting to worship the deities, you know, very early in the morning. He did that in more than just Miami. He's also serving in, I believe, in Denver and Houston. In fact, he was so anxious to serve, he actually had a real taste for devotional service. He was proactive and made sure he learned and was trained in deity service, pujari, and then he became quite expert at it, addressing the deities, and of course he had his own deities also. And his desire to perform service was very impressive. He actually had a genuine taste to perform devotional service. He would like be ecstatic and tell me, like for instance, how much he was looking forward to serving the deities in Miami. And he had such a strong service attitude that in the main temple in Miami, they had a pretty tough standard as far as like who could live in the temple and what was expected of them and the discipline. But they always welcomed Ananda Loka with open arms because he wasn't coming with any personal agenda. He was just coming, yeah, personal in the sense that he had a personal relationship with the deities. I don't mean to, go the Sahaja route or try to exaggerate it. And I don't know, you know, all the details about his heart and how he felt, but he really saw the deities as personalities, and he was enthusiastic, like ecstatic is a better word to serve the deities. In other words, as I used to say, he's the real McCoy. You talk about a genuine devotee, someone that really has a taste for devotional service. He certainly fits the bill. In terms of my own dealings with him, I'm very remain very flattered by him that he considered me his friend. He even deemed that I was his advisor, although spiritually speaking, he's way, way more advanced. He was way more advanced than I was and probably still am, my limitation. But but we hit it off. We hit it off. Most of the time, we had a conflict back in 2019. He got very angry at me because I was pushing that he should start using WhatsApp, and I think WhatsApp was going at that time, and uh, and start using some of the modern means. He was limited himself only to the telephone without any other access. Uh, but then a few years later, he actually admitted how much how much good use he was able to make out of, for instance, WhatsApp. And I certainly communicated with him a lot on that. We really struck up quite a friendship, and we actually had some experiences, not extended experiences, not many of them, but in Miami we had some really blissful experiences going around together, and and see a black guy and a white guy both dressed in orange robes, and it made an impact. There was one guy, Al, from the copy center that the devotees have been using for years and years in Coconut Grove in Miami. And when the manager, Al, when he saw the two of us, he just lit up to see, as he was a black guy, and to see a black bodied Vaishnav. Al was not a Vaishnav, but he was, friendly. And he was like really enlivened to see that. And he listened like he never listened before. Of course, I let Ananda Loka Prabhu do most of the preaching, but that was a nice occasion. Um, we had a close relationship, and he had some tremendous challenges. Again, partially because of the sensitivity that he had because of his traumatic upbringing. Uh, he he would get some, you might call them flashbacks or something, when he felt he was being treated unfairly by devotees. And that didn't happen very often, but when it did happen, I tried to, if I can be so brash as to use the word, counsel him. He wanted that. He saw us as friends, and I always saw him as much more advanced than myself, not just because I was trying to be a humble Vaishnava, but because of objective uh, evidence that he was, as I say, really attracted to devotional service. He wanted to travel with me. I was with him in Puerto Rico at one point, but to go to foreign countries where you need a passport, that was something he really wanted to do. He wanted me to go with him, for us to travel together, maybe in South America, maybe even Europe. But the problem was that he had a passport block, and he told me it would cost $5,000 to fix. So that never got done. But I did see him in different places, including Denver and, um, of course, San Antonio. And he was a great friend. I hope in some sense he's still a great friend. At least I'm getting his blessings from wherever he is now located. Certainly, I'm sure it's a very ecstatic location. So I don't want to take up too much time. This is basically some little hint of at least my experiences with Ananda Loka Prabhu. Ananda Loka Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Right now, I'm going to unmute Varninath Vasu, Prabhu. I'll go, I guess, if you can.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, you can unmute yourself. All right.
First, I'd like to recognize some of Anandaloka's relatives who are here. Um, I've been in touch with Maya, his daughter. You might wave so persons know who you are. There she is. And Lydia, I'm not sure your relations. Maybe could you unmute? Maybe they could just say hello or any other things that they might like to say at this time. Or at least let us know, because I don't know Lydia. I know Maya.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. I am, he was my brother.
Okay.
I hadn't seen him in many years, and
We're so glad that you're here.
my sister-in-law sent me the link so that I could view this.
Okay.
But we did have a trouble childhood, and he I don't know much about him because we were always separated
Mhm.
in different homes and stuff, and I I don't even know him. You people know him better than I do, and I feel so bad about that. And now I'm starting to understand a little
Mhm.
why he was the way he was. I didn't know any of this stuff was going on with him because he never told me.
Okay.
And
Well,
I
I'm happy that you're here.
thank you.
You'll hear a lot more about that. And Maya, did you like to say something also?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, thank you all so
Hi,
much for
Maya.
Hi. So nice
You're
to
so
see
pretty.
you.
You're so pretty.
So good to see you.
Good to see you
Um,
too. And I'm sorry for your loss. I'm so
thank
sorry.
you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for being here and for organizing this. Yeah, I think that over the past few weeks it's been really beautiful to hear the different experiences and impact he's had on so many different people's lives from so many different places and ti different times. So I appreciate you all coming together and sharing your own experiences and um, So I'm looking forward to hearing that. I'm also just wanted to show some gratitude for folks who have on the call who might have donated to the GoFundMe, where we raised some money to bring my father's ashes to India and return them to the Yamuna River. So I'm really, really appreciative for everybody who's contributed to that and has played a part in helping arrange that and facilitate that, because I know that that's truly what my father would have wanted. So thank you all. And again, thank you for sharing all of the experiences and stories. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Maya. And I'll go ahead and share some things I was thinking. Of course, my name is Vaninath Vasu Das, and Ananda Loka and I grew up together in the ashram, in that part of his life. We grew up together in the ashram here in Gainesville. And I think of him even now fairly regularly as I move about in the course of my day. And I thought that with this gathering, there's going to be many devotees that will speak about a number of different aspects of Ananda Loka. And I thought of one thing I wanted to, because I remember this often, is his very infectious laugh. When Ananda Loka and we would get together, and it was always very, we're friends, but it was like on a brotherly level, and it was kind of relaxed. I'll just say like that. Our interaction was very relaxed, and he would often call me with these very funny stories of his travels and the things, and he was always very enthusiastic about the interactions he had in the course of his travels, and the opportunity to see Krishna's hand in all of that. I remember just something that comes to mind, that he traveled a lot, and I'm mentioning this because his sister, you may not know this, and Maya, you may not know this, but he traveled a lot, and in doing so, oftentimes his material resources for traveling were very thin. I'll say it like that. Sometimes I wouldn't have taken a trip trying to go from here to there with as little money as he had, or with a vehicle that wasn't in the best mechanical shape, etc. But somehow he would see that, and he would tell me the different stories where Krishna would intervene and everything would work out. And this had just happened repeatedly. And it was like regularly, whenever he called, I would expect to hear the latest adventure in that regard. But he had such faith that Krishna would provide, and he would act on that. And certainly Krishna did in so many instances. And it wasn't that he was incapable. And this I thought of this also, and this is a story I'll tell, and I don't know if many persons know this, but this is one story he told me. At one point, he was the personal assistant to a heart specialist. This was a person this doctor was in such demand that he traveled all around the country, and Ananda Loka was like his personal assistant in his travels and also in the surgeries. He would go there and participate, like that in the surgeries. This is not with any formal training, but just he had a certain ability to be very attentive to these details in assisting a surgeon. So he was telling him about this one particular situation where he described this surgery and the different things, and all of that was over my head because I don't know anything about the tools or the procedures, et cetera, like this. And when the doctor had finished the major part of what needed to be done, he turned to Ananda Loka and said, "Sew him up." Now, this is kind of the things where this requires many years of training, I imagine, to just sewing in general, but to speak of sewing someone up who's had heart surgery, et cetera. But he expected Nanda Loka to do that. And Nanda Loka mentioned he was initially shocked, but the doctor insisted, and the doctor was taking off his gloves. He was finished. And so he sewed him up. And so his ability to gather that type of expertise by just participating and watching, this is the kind of caliber of his intelligence. It's a particular ability to gather that type of experience just by watching. So that was one of the things I wanted to mention. I wrote that down. I mentioned about his laugh. I mean, when Maharaj was chanting for a little bit before we started, I was just, I can close my eyes and hear his laugh and just remember some of the places that we interacted in. He would come and visit me oftentimes when he was in Gainesville. And I would try to be of some assistance, et cetera, in the course of his travels. And I miss him. Yes, it will be missed. So those are a few words from myself, and very glad to be here. Hare Krishna.
Can I just interject something? Yeah. I understand that actually he told me that Ananda Loka Prabhu is also a tennis pro in addition to all his other skills. I think that should be thrown into the mix.
I forgot to mention that. I've seen his collection he had a collection of information regarding his years that he taught as a tennis pro. And of course, Maya, you grew up with that as well, because I saw your picture so many times there, you and your sister. But yes, he was a tennis pro and very accomplished in terms of teaching persons, et cetera. And he would talk with me oftentimes about the different techniques, et cetera, like this. Maybe Maya, you could fill in a little bit about that, just in terms of his experience with that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's definitely one one aspect of his life where he was able to meet a lot of people and have a really positive impact. And I think just hearing the way that you talk about his kind of infectious spirit and enthusiasm, that is something that anyone who's been coached by him is quick to report. I think that he had a way of really like enlivening the tennis court and bringing out the best in people through that kind of sense of joy um, and kind of like celebration through everything that he did. So I think that was reflected in his coaching and the kind of mentorship and guidance that he was able to provide primarily to youth. And that was at different summer camps and Olympic development programs and high school coaching jobs. So again, his impact kind of was dispersed throughout the country. And he's coached a lot of different people in a lot of different walks of life. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Wonderful. Bob Cohen, Prabhu, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yes, Brahmatirtha here. My wife and I met Ananda Loka when he joined with the Krishnas in the 80s in Miami Beach. And we immediately took a great liking to him. First, we come from a Jewish family, and he knew more Yiddish words than we did, because when he lived in New York, the Orthodox wouldn't turn their lights on or off on the Sabbath, so they had to hire someone to do it. And he was the one who did it. And so he learned all these Yiddish words. He said, how do you know more Yiddish than I do? So he had a very eclectic background. We knew it was also a rough background at times. Then he became, I noticed when he would make beds, we were in this 8-story hotel in Miami Beach that we owned. he would make it perfect. I said, how do you know all this and fold laundry and do things? Well, he was, I don't know the exact position, but he was like the assistant to the general, something like that. And he knew how to do things perfectly. It was such a pleasure to be with. And then when he traveled, he'd often stop by our house when passing through Gainesville or being in Gainesville. And he and my wife can't join now, she's at a treatment, but he would reveal his mind of things that bothered him, but it was always with a good and open heart. And we so always enjoyed his company. And because he had a sincerity that was tremendous. He also struggled with his own mind and some mental circumstances. And even with that struggle, he was still always good-hearted and really concerned to do the best he could. When he took up his pujari work, as others have mentioned, it really gave him a new life because he was so expert at the worship side of that. He is sorely missed. You wonder, what is the fate of someone passes on even prematurely by standard actuary work? His fate is such that he's in a much better opportunity. His body had some extreme physical challenges. His mind had challenges. And now he's giving an opportunity without the same challenges, because in spite of all the challenges, and you'll hear more about it, his sincerity always, always, always won the day. And I'm very proud to consider him a friend. Thank you very much. And my condolences, of course, to the family and his others who were even much closer friends than we were with him. Thank you very much. Over.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu. Would anybody else like to share as well? If you have a Zoom raising your hand that you'd like to do, or if you'd like to just unmute, please.
I would love to share.
All right.
I knew Ananda Loka Prabhu primarily in Denver. When he's living there, I just put some photos. One of my last times that I saw Ananda Loka Prabhu, I asked if he'd give me some tennis lessons. So those are photos of our tennis lesson that we had. There's a few things just to echo. Because sometimes there can be a flavor of renunciation, which I've observed, which can feel very forced, and it can feel very cold also. And Ananda Loka, although he was considered in the renounced order of life, had such a warmth, and there was no aversion to his renunciation. His renunciation was really just a longing for the Lord. And so I always was immensely inspired by him and his presence, and how uplifted I always felt no matter what. And the like painful humility, just how proud and puffed up I would feel in contrast to Ananda Loka Prabhu. And the very last time that I saw Prabhu, he had come to pick up a car here in Michigan, where I live, and he had asked because he was planning to not travel as much, his health issues were coming up. He was also moving out of the house that he was staying in Alachua, and he asked if I would like to serve his deities. And so, by good fortune, I actually have Krishna Balaram here, whom he served for many years. And so I wanted to at least show them some of the devotees as Ananda Loka Prabhu served and dressed them for so many years, and by his grace and kindness, they've decided to come here and now really bless this home. Right before, basically, he called me right after my wife and I found out that we were pregnant with our daughter, who's now almost 7 months old, and so felt a very strong grace being channeled by Ananda Loka and his presence and his kindness, and I was very shocked to hear that he had passed away, but also echoing what others have said, just no doubt of the depth of his love and the depth of his desire and the earnestness of his heart and the clarity and conviction of his soul. So I wanted to at least real quick show Shushigornita. It's a little dark. The lighting's not the best. Let's see if I can get a little bit of better lighting. Hold on one second. Okay. So this is Krishna Balaram, and they were served by Ananda Loka Prabhu for many years. And he had asked if I wanted to serve Krishna Balaram, and I said yes. And so we arranged for a devotee to bring them up from Alatra, and now they're here. So thank you so much for organizing this, and for everyone being here and honoring such a wonderful and lovely, beautiful person.
All right, Krishna, thank you for sharing.
I'll go next if it's okay.
Wonderful. Please do, Prabhu.
Thank you for arranging this get together. Ananda Loka Prabhu was a good friend. We met in Krishna House in Gainesville, which is the preaching center. And he used to tell me a few things that were mentioned by Maharaji that were confidential. He talked about his girls quite a bit. And he shared a lot of personal things, which I don't know how much has been shared with others, but I'll just keep it to myself at the moment because that's what he wanted, not to be shared with everyone. He did have some difficulties physically, as was mentioned, but he was very happy serving in Krishna House, making prasad for all the Krishna House devotees. Anytime he was given an opportunity, he would cook all by himself. I was able to go and help him in cooking many times. He also had rented a apartment on his own with 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, I think. One was the temple room, and the other one he was living in. And he invited me there and made feast for me. And that was so touching. When he called me and said, "No, you have to have the feast and then only you can go, otherwise you can't go. You cannot leave this door." It was such a wonderful feast and wonderful loving devotion of his that he always wanted to serve people, serve anybody who he could. He had some tough times. Transportation was one of his biggest challenge because of his travel needs. And at one time he was able to share that with me. So I suggested if I could serve him in any way, and he obliged me to serve him to make sure that he could travel. He used to talk about serving sannyasis in Dallas Temple, in Houston, in Denver. He was a wonderful person, wonderful soul. I miss him. But I'm sure he's in a much better place now with all the challenges that he used to face from childhood all the way to his age when he left the body. And I'm happy for him. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a good family. All the devotees are big family members. This is all worldwide. So I'm sure there are many more who probably could not attend right now and could be feeling the same as we are for him. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I just want to say that there is the GoFundMe link. It's in the chat. If anybody would like to contribute to the campaign for Ananda Loka Prabhu and his ashes being put in India. They're taking his ashes to India. So if anybody would like to contribute, that link is there. Would anybody else like to share?
Hare Krishna. So my name is, it's okay I speak?
Absolutely, Prabhu, please.
Okay. So Dandavat pranams, everybody. Please accept my humble obeisances. And again, to Maya and the whole family, our condolences and our hearts are with you. As you can tell, there's a lot of love that we felt for Ananda Loka Prabhu. He was, knew him when he would come to Boston 1 year for Rath Yatra, from the Snana Yatra to the actual day of Rath Yatra. He was there simply to serve Lord Jagannath, and that's where I first got to know him. And he was just very, very careful to do everything very nicely. Like someone had mentioned earlier, even when he was folding the Lord's sheets, he did so perfectly. And so he was very precise like that, and I appreciated that quality. But really, I think a lot of what I'm hearing from other devotees and what my experience also was that you always felt like you had a confidential friendship with him, that he was able to be vulnerable with us and reveal his mind and heart, and speak to in a way. And I just immediately, we became very close friends. I'd always get messages from him now and then from his travels and wishing me a happy Janmashtami, if it was a day of Janmashtami or Ram Nomi. And he was so sweet. That was the thing I remembered about him today, was just he was such a sweet, kind person. And I remember of course, his tennis pro days was that he would teach children. They would have these summer camp sessions. And I remember seeing how easily children would approach him for if they needed anything, like at the temple, and how he would kneel down and speak with them in such a respectful, kind way. And he was just a gentle soul. And I know he shared some of the challenges he had growing up in his personal life and his health and so forth. But there was never any bitterness in his heart. He always maintained his sweet disposition, always humble. He always had questions for me, like I was somehow like his teacher or counselor. But really, I felt, and I think Maharaj, you expressed this also. I felt like he was much more advanced than I was, just in terms of his consciousness, his dedication, his mindfulness, his evenness of his disposition, his dedication to service. He was really, truly an admirable personality, and just very humble. And so when I heard of his passing earlier today, my heart just broke, and I know, and I was lamenting for myself, because I know that all the devotional service, the chanting, the service, all the qualities that he had cultivated in this lifetime, I have no doubt that his next birth will be very auspicious, whether it's in gold, I won't speculate, but he's fine in terms of his consciousness and his purity of heart, but we're going to miss him terribly. So I just want to offer my obeisances, Vancha Kalpa Drupascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patinam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak and glorify this very dear friend and very exalted devotee. And again, my condolences.
Could we get everybody's name when they speak? What is your name, Prabhu?
Shamarupa Das.
Oh, okay, as it says in the corner. Okay, Shamarupa. Sorry, thank you.
No problem. No.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing. That was really heart-touching. Thank you. Would anybody else like to share? There's quite a few of us in here. Please raise your hand or unmute and feel free.
What about you?
Sure. Well, it looks like Mimi. We'll let Mimi unmute it. Would you like to
Oh,
share?
there, I got the unmute button.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, hey, thank you for organizing this. I go way back with Ananda Loka. So far back when I first met him, it was Bhakta Anthony. And that was here in Gainesville in 1978. And it could have been 78 or 79. But at the time, he was in the Army. I don't know. It was mentioned a little bit before that he had served in the military. I don't know how long he was in for. But anyway, we were having a conversation, and he was clearly already a pretty strict devotee. And then he told me he was in the Army, and I said, "Really? Why'd you do that?" And he just laughed, and he says, "I don't know. I guess I was just in Maya, Prabhu. I didn't know what to do with my life at the time. I'd already met Srila Prabhupada, but I decided to join the Army." And I kind of laughed and joked with him, and I said, "Well, it's not all that bad. You'll get through, and you'll be able to become a devotee. But I'm personally AWOL right now from the Navy, and living in the temple." And he didn't believe me. And then I had to get a couple other devotees to tell him, "Oh yeah, Chakradhar went AWOL like a year ago and surrendered here at the temple." Well, that's another long story, but that's when I first met him. And he's just, he was such a wonderful person. And anytime I saw him, I just felt uplifted. And fortunately, in the last few years, I was able to bump into him on a regular basis. About 3 years ago, I saw him chanting japa here in Alachua and invited him over, and we had a nice conversation. And then about a year and a half ago, I saw him in the Publix parking lot. We probably talked for 2 hours in the parking lot. And he was revealing some things that really bothered him, and asking me advice on whether or not he should take sannyas, and really deep and interesting conversations. But just thinking about him, the other day, I popped his name up on the internet, and I found this little chanting. I would like to share 5 minutes with everyone if they'd like to hear Ananda Loka's voice and hear his chanting. He reasons ill who say Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. So with that, I'd like to engage everybody in hearing the sweet voice of His Grace Ananda Loka Prabhu. I don't know how well this will come through, but bear with me. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Janavalava Girivaradhari Yasuranandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tiyara Vanachari Jamuna Tiyara Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodhananda Bhajaranaranja Kanna Bhajaranaranja Yasodanandana Bhajaranaranja Sudanandana Bhajaranaranja Yamuna Tiyara Vanachari Natiyara Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privakacharya Asta Sodasasa Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privakacharya Asta Sodasasa Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Shri Nimai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hope everybody enjoyed that. It's you can find the link on SoundCloud, and it's actually more than an hour and a half. Ananda Loka is giving a Bhagavatam class, and of course there's a beautiful chanting at the beginning there. I'd like to offer my condolences to his daughter Maya and his sister, and all his good friends that are here tonight. That's it for me.
I'll just like to add, listening to this clip, as soon as it started, it reminded me of him being a very shy person in the public, but very open when you were personally talking to him, very extrovert type. And when he had given this class, I think this was in Gainesville, Krishna House, that was his first class that he gave on Bhagavatam. He was so excited after that. He met me and he was hugging me like crazy. He was so excited after giving this class. He said, "This is a new chapter in my life. I've never given a class. I've never spoken in front of people. I was so afraid in front of everyone before getting into that room that I can't tell you. It was just an exhilarating experience when I met him after the class." Thank you for sharing this. I had not remembered this to talk about it earlier, but thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Could I add something to that? What Prabhu just said about Ananda Loka Prabhu's shyness about giving class. Am I being heard?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Maharaj.
Yeah, I think this was in San Antonio, Texas. He wouldn't give any class. He told me that he had a reading disability, and I never really noticed that he was really weak in that area, but somehow he felt insecure about giving any class at all. And I feel very honored to have been the one to actually insist that not that don't worry, you'll be fine. Because he wasn't big on like quoting verses and shlokas. Maybe his memory disability had some effect on his ability to like memorize shlokas and that kind of intellect. But he gave wonderful class, and as many of us have experienced, even if he wasn't like academic, you might say, but he had, due to his tremendous life experience, his classes were always very rich and full of realizations. So I'm just remembering that moment when I had to really push him, and it was just a small audience, but I'm glad he surrendered to my pushing, and he started giving class at that time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Prabhu, can you share that SoundCloud link if possible? If you have a chance. It was very deep and I felt transported to the heavenly realm. Leela Kara, Prabhu, please unmute. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. First of all, I'd like to give my ideal empathetic condolences to his dearest relatives, also friends and like that. So I've personally speaking, I have not associated much with His Grace Ananda Loka Prabhu as much as all the other Vaishnavas here. And the time that I have associated, I remember in the preaching center we had here in Miami, Maharaj told me that if you really, it's hard not to like His Grace Ananda Loka Prabhu. So I got acquainted with him, and many times I've appreciated his friendliness and the ability to talk to him. And also I experienced his stern side as well. He has a very if one comes across in a way that is not genuine, it seems like Krishna can empower him to make you know about it. And just like mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he reasons ill that Sevas Vaishnava, who says that Vaishnavas die, Vaishnavas are still living in sound, like that. And how can we take it? How can we keep these great Vaishnavas that leave within ourselves, within we can try to look at their example and try to follow them. And one of my realizations that everybody here is on earth for a specific purpose, especially the Vaishnavas. So anytime that a great Vaishnava has left our vicinity, how can we act? How can we put ourselves in life in such a way that they stay with us for the rest of our lives? Their instructions like that. What example did he teach, either directly or indirectly? What did he teach that I can imbibe and I can keep that personality with him, with me forever, like that? So we can try to see, okay, what qualities, what examples and what direct instructions did His Grace Ananda Loka Prabhu that we can learn from. And we can see that in reality, there is no separation. There may be one sense separation. At the same time, there is no separation as long as we try to make his instructions and his example part of our life, like that. And we can see that the time that the Lord or Krishna calls us, that we can all be together. So, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. Thank you so much, everybody. I also want to say once again, we have the GoFundMe link. If you scroll up in the chat, that will help with the assistance of bringing Ananda Loka Prabhu's ashes to India. So if anybody wants to contribute, because we've had a few new people pop in the Zoom this evening. Would anybody else like to share next? I have actually, before that, Heidi Moss wanted to share. And she says, she put this in the chat. I am also from Boston and met Prabhu a year ago when he came. It was a warm, sunny day and his personality matched. He was bright and personable and asked me my name. He inquired about my chanting and then said, "Oh, don't tell me how many rounds. It's okay." It was very sweet how he encouraged yet was careful where he didn't want to pressure or put me on the spot. His encouragement and gentle nudge really made a difference in my chanting and Krishna consciousness. He's a beautiful, heartfelt soul, and I thank him with all my heart and pray for him and his family. Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, Heidi. Sweet. Yes, please unmute Zoom user. You don't have, if you'd like to introduce yourself as well. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. My name is Mohini. Dandavat pranams. My condolences to Ananda Loka's family and his dearest friends and associates. I've only met Ananda Loka a few times when he was in the Boston Temple, and I live in Maine. It's about 2 hours away. And this one day I came down, and my intention was to clean the temple room. And I got my cleaning supplies and I went into the temple room, and there was a devotee that I didn't recognize up on the altar, just doing a really beautiful puja. And I was immediately attracted to his, just his energy. He was clearly just a very beautiful, he was very graceful, a very light energy. And so I got really close to the altar because I wanted him to see me cleaning. And so I was cleaning and then for a while, and then somebody came in, a young man, and he wanted to take prasadam, but he didn't know where the prasadam room was. So I stood up and I said, "Oh, I can take you up to the prasadam room." And so I took him up there, and then by the time I got back down, Ananda Loka was off the altar, and I was on the other side of the temple room, and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, you're a devotee." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm a devotee." And he said, "Oh, I thought you were doing community service." And and he thought that I was in the temple, so I was very gently humbled. It thought I was in a delinquent in the temple doing community service, which was just so wonderful. And then he proceeded to sit down on the bench next to me and ask me questions. And within 5 or 10 minutes of knowing him, it was like we'd been friends for years. And he was so free with sharing intimate information about his life and his childhood, and he was just, it was just so immediately that he was so deeply caring and such a lovely, truly a lovely, lovely person, and so deeply dedicated to his bhakti and his devotion to Prabhupada and Jagannath were so warming. And he can so mercifully continued to stay in touch with me throughout the preceding couple of years. And in that duration of time, he took a train to Maine to visit my husband and our devotee family and take darshan of my Jagannath deities. And just what a merciful, beautiful gesture, this man who is so busy and in high demand, traveling all over the place, takes the train. How deeply inconvenient, to bless us in our little tiny sangha with his beautiful association. And in just the few you know, the few meetings that we had, I've been permanently impacted. He was the only, I think, probably the only devotee that I said to him, if in 20 years I will take initiation from you. So you have to take sannyas. And yeah, so thank you so much for letting me share. I just wanted to also speak on how merciful and what a beautiful soul he was, and certainly he's taken a high birth and hopefully put a good word in for all of us. Jai, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Dandavat pranams.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing. Very sweet. Would anybody else like to share?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit. Yeah, my name is Anthony, also another Bhakta Anthony. That was a little fun thing we shared. Oh my God, I don't even know where to begin with my experience with Ananda Loka Prabhu. It was some years ago. I had met a devotee, Tim Carter, who passed away in a car accident, who introduced me to Kirtan, and I was taking Mridanga lessons from Tim and doing a lot of Kirtan on the UF campus for Krishna lunch. And the first time I had met Ananda Loka, it struck me that I was in the presence of a very great soul and a very profound being. And I didn't know what was about him, but I just instantly felt his energy. And he needed a ride back up to the Alachua Temple. And I remember I drove him in my Toyota Tacoma truck, and it was a really cold day. And I noticed, like, he could tell I was cold. I could feel that he was picking up on my discomfort. And when I dropped him off, he ran out of the little mobile home he was staying in with this beautiful blanket with the logo of this, I guess, tennis school he had taught at. And he came over to me and he wrapped me up in this blanket, and it smelled like sandalwood oil. And he wanted to make sure I was warm before I left in the car. And I remember I wrapped up in it and I just buried my face in the blanket and just smelled the sandalwood oil. And I could just feel him. Like it felt like my dad or my mom just hugging me. And when I drove back to Gainesville, I was just like, who is this man? And every time I'd go to Krishna House, I'd run into him and we would just hang out and we would talk. And I was like, what do I do to deserve being in the presence of someone like this? I just feel like I'm kind of like a nobody. And I feel like I'm around somebody that is like, I don't know, on a path that I just can't understand. It's that level of devotion, that level of enthusiasm, that level of clarity of life purpose. But I could see that, like, he could see my heart. Like, he knew how bad I really wanted that deep down, and maybe I just didn't, hadn't put it to practice yet. So he told me everything about his upbringing, about the homes he was in and out of in New York, his time as a surgical assistant. Um, I was playing a ton of Murdunga, and he started to get interested in it too. And I gave him this blue Balaram Murdunga that I had. So we would go over to the little Bhakti house by Krishna House, and we would practice Murdunga beats together. And he would just start going nuts, like singing at the top of his lungs. Just, oh my God. Another time I remember he was preparing food in the little kitchen in the Bhakti house. And he was like, Anthony Prabhu, he's like, you just wouldn't believe it. He's like, there's grease and all these things all over the wall and things on the floor. He's like, this is the kitchen of the Lord. He's like, I can't believe anybody would treat this kitchen like this. And he had polished all of the walls, the floor, the oven, the inside of the oven, took apart parts of the stove, cleaned every part of it to where it looked brand new. And he taught me how to cut vegetables consciously and just how to pay attention. He shared with me how he would wake up at 3 in the morning every morning to begin his rounds. We spent a tremendous amount of time together for a string of years. Of course, in between when he was traveling. And I feel like he was probably one of the greatest inspirations of my life. And I feel like it's a level of Krishna consciousness and a level of spirituality that it's always going to be a barometer for me, and a measure of attainment of, if I really got serious with my spiritual life, he's the one I look up to as somebody that is on the road to becoming. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't already incredibly great in who he was, but I could feel like this is somebody that has whatever it is that the great ones have, and different saints that are able to get them to that level. You could feel that he had that in him and that he was eventually gonna be going in that direction. And again, I'm completely unqualified to understand his level of attainment and advancement. Um, but I'm just thankful that Krishna put me in his presence, to teach me, what life could be if I was really applied myself. So I love him, and I hope I can find all the pictures of us hanging out that are somewhere on my computer. But I remember I used to just stare at the pictures and look at his face, and you could just see the light in his face. And I know we'll meet again sometime, someplace. I feel that. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony Prabhu, for sharing amazing stories. Anybody else like to share? Next up.
This past hour of remembrance has just been nothing but beautiful and choked up beautifully. My name is Mimi, and I had the great pleasure of his presence in Gainesville, like many of us, only for a short time, but it was the longest time in eternity, as his soul. Where can I even begin? There's so many things to say about this amazing personality. The first thing that always comes to mind is, of course, his laugh and all these amazing characteristics that we've all said. But humility is one that always sparks my mind when I think of Ananda Loka. Yeah, his humility was just something that I strive for. Just with his service and the things that he's gone through. Just so honest with his sharing. Everything that he did, he shared with us and shared with Krishna wholeheartedly, honestly, loving. And everything that he did, he always made materialistic subjects, matters, conversations always spiritual. There was always a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, I just can't thank Krishna enough for his presence. The way that I met him was one day during just a random Krishna lunch day. He was preparing food for all of us, and he kind of just said it in the ether, whoever was there, but he was just like, does anyone here know how to play ball? And instantly, I said, I do. Just knowing, there's so many balls. What I knew it was tennis. And in that moment, I knew I was supposed to be there, and I was supposed to respond to that call from Krishna. truly. But anyways, so as we call it, we started our devotion ship. Primarily, he taught me tennis for a while, and we used to call our time together serving to serve. So during our nice, practices on the court, he would basically just give me spiritual lessons and just, things that I could take with me. It it was just two people hitting a ball back and forth, and it was so much more than that. And Maya, he used to always talk about you and the family, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe there's another sister. Um, but every time we met, it was so sweet. We always drove separately, to and from, but every time he would always bring out another picture of you and the family and just talk about your times together. And yeah, he's just such an amazing soul and personality, and definitely the best spiritual mentor that I've ever had in my life. He was so much more than that. He was my friend, and I just can't thank him enough for everything that he's brought to me and brought to the community and ISKCON and and so many other souls. I really just can't. I can't describe the love that I have for that soul. And one thing that I was really reflecting on after I heard the news of him leaving his body, sometimes we run on such a material and mechanical basis in this world that whenever you really naturally feel emotion, it's so raw and beautiful. And of course, I'm on the community chat for the Krishna community, and I saw a picture of him, and this was the update of his passing, and it was some of the most naturally real emotion that I've ever felt. I just broke down immediately, and there was just so many things going on in my head, and continuing just to think about and relish. And one thing that really I was meditating on in his passing was what we can gain out of loss. We never lost. He's not lost. His lessons and his love and the time that we had with this personality lives vicariously through all of us. His laugh, his lessons. Even in this remembrance tonight, I can hear him talking through all of us, and it's just so beautiful and potent that the devotees and just followers of Krishna and even, just servants on this plane have that effect. And I'll just never, never forget. And he lives with us every day, no matter what. So thank you so much for setting this up. My condolences for everyone that's been touched by Ananda Loka. We love him. We remember you, Ananda Loka, and your soul will never go out. The last thing that I would like to share is I was very fortunate enough to look after some of his deities that he brought from Houston. And now they're in my home. And I just would like to show you just my little remembrance, as well as another picture of Ananda Loka that I just love. Let me turn on another light. Maybe this one would be nice. This is also a beautiful picture from the New York Rath Yatra. I believe it was last year. Radhanath Swami in the front. Pardon me, I do not know the other Maharaj's names, but Ananda Loka, just that smile that is so unforgettable that we all know. And these are also the beautiful Radha Krishna deities from Houston.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Ananda. Loka. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for sharing, Mimi. Anybody else at this time would like to unmute or raise their hand, feel free. If you have some remembrance about Nanda Loka Prabhu. Maybe I can share, if that's okay. My name is Bhagavan Narda Das. I'm from San Antonio, and I had the very great pleasure and fortune to be with Ananda Loka Prabhu. He was here, I guess, 5 years ago or so. I think it was 2019, 2018. I want to thank Damodar Maharaj for inviting him. I don't know how many weeks, I can't really remember. But he spent some time with us. And I was just reflecting. I was just like, we go through life, and there's only really so many people that we can truly feel like we can reveal our minds to or get really, really close with and be vulnerable with. And he was one of those people. And it's when you meet these kinds of people, you don't want to let them go. You want to stay connected with them. And so I would occasionally get messages from him, or I'd send him messages, and then he'd change his number, and then I'd go through various WhatsApp groups and try to find him and hunt him down. And then we'd talk maybe every 4 or 5 months for like 3 or 4 hours on the phone. And he was just very sweet. He's very kind, very soft-hearted. It's like a father, mentor, friend, all in one. He was very dynamic in the way that he expressed himself. And when I found the news, it was just like I felt so frustrated, because he had been on my mind, and I thought, it's one of those things where you think, oh, I need to call this person, just check in and see how everything's going. Because I would invite him several times, but we weren't really set up yet the few times. And he was, a lot of people wanted him to come and visit. So he was in various places. I'd call him and he was in this city or that city, or in Puerto Rico one time he called me, and he was just always so enthusiastic, um, very encouraging, um, very compassionate, very humble. Like he personified these qualities. And it's something that when you come across as an aspiring spiritualist, you want that. And in order to get that, you have to go to somebody who embodies that. One of the last conversation we had was about 3 hours. And I get on these. I just said, hey, what do you think about forgiveness? Because I was dealing with forgiveness in my heart. And he really unlocked this topic. It's a very broad topic, but then we thought every time we thought we were going to hang up, we'd go another 20 or 30 minutes. And it was just so sweet that I could have somebody like that within reach, just a phone call away. And so at the end of this talk, I've heard this many times. Is that forgiveness isn't for the other person necessarily sometimes, because this was like a really deep thing that was in my heart, and it's just like yucky, but it's for ourselves. And I had heard that many times in various workshops or from other devotees. But when somebody puts their honesty and their genuine realization behind that, there's a certain potency that can enter the other person's heart if they're open to it. And because he had such strong conviction in this moment, in this topic of forgiveness, it was able to help me, and I was able to kind of overcome some hankering and some issues that I was having in my heart. So I miss him. He was very saintly. I keep thinking of the word saintly to describe him. And what I'm getting out of all this especially is that when we come across these individuals that carry the qualities that we're lacking, we have to hold them tight. Like Anthony was saying, like that blanket, we have to really hold them near and dear to us. And we have to seek out this sort of association because the material energy is very, very strong. And these types of people can pull us away towards the spiritual energy. And he's just a very, very sweet, sweet personality. So I also want to thank Maharaj for being that connection in this lifetime with Ananda Loka Prabhu. And he would always ask me too, he goes, say Hare Krishna to your wife. He'd ask about my wife. And I just thought that was so sweet. Here you have this monk, and he's just so fatherly and welcoming. So that's my testimony. I'm very privileged and honored that I could have met someone with such amazing qualities, and I could keep going on and on and on because he really affected my life, and in a good way, not a challenging way. He was very encouraging. So thank you for allowing me to share. Thank y'all for sharing as well, because it makes me feel more gratitude in my heart to have just crossed paths with somebody for only a few years, and now I can share some of those lessons that I learned from him. Hare Krishna. And if anybody else would like to share, we can definitely do that, or we can conclude, which I hope we don't, but we can raise your hand or just unmute and share a few things. That would be great. Okay. There are a couple of classes he gave on Boston ISKCON YouTube. He brought up his family. Heidi says to everybody, again, I'm going to go ahead and post the GoFundMe link, which will help to transport Ananda Loka Prabhu's ashes to India. So if anybody would like to share, please do. I have this recorded. If not, we'll call it an evening. So I guess
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody because I'm really pleasantly surprised by the interactions that you all shared, and I actually feel that I know Ananda Loka Prabhu somewhat better than I knew him before this session. So that was I learned more about him. Uh, Mostly, I had a general sense, but the specific experiences that you all shared give me a much made my impression of Ananda Loka even deeper. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Okay. Uh, Unfortunately, I guess we'll have to conclude here. Is there a link to the beautiful bhajan we heard? I asked that question too. I haven't been able to get a response. Hopefully we can find it through Google. I did look up on Google. There's a couple of classes on SoundCloud if you just type up Ananda Loka Prabhu and SoundCloud. But hopefully that link turns up somehow or another where we can hear that beautiful bhajan. But I guess we'll conclude here. Maharaj, where would be the best? Okay, here's the link. Somebody sent it.
Yeah, I sent it there.
Okay, thank you so much. That's good.
SoundCloud. I'm not sure how the link works with.
Sure. Yeah, that works. That link works.
Okay.
Okay, so
I was really happy when I found that the other day.
wonderful. It's powerful, super powerful.
Super powerful.
This is another devotee from Boston as well. I have had a couple of interactions with Ananda Loka Prabhu at the Boston Temple, and he always talked about Srila Prabhupada, japa, his family, and tennis. He is dearly missed. Thank you so much. It's definitely. So there's that link there if anybody would like to do a last few minute clicks. And I have one question is where do y'all think I would be best to post this? I guess I can post it online, or Maharaj, I can share it with you if you know of any WhatsApp groups, or if there's a Krishna House or Gainesville WhatsApp group. I'll share it. I guess if anybody wants to get in touch, please let me know. So I'll go ahead and I'll stop recording.
I have access to Krishna House community chat.
Okay.
So if you can share it with me, I will publish it there, the recording.
Okay, Prabhu. I'm sending you my phone number now. I guess I'll stop the recording. I want to thank everybody for connecting, sharing, and allowing us to be even more closer with this dearly missed devotee and personality. It's been a blessing. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Really appreciate you organizing this and allowing us to come together. So thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.